Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Tony's upside down.
Yeah,
I thought it was me.
he doesn't realize he's upside down. He looks like he's the right way.
Maybe we're upside down. That could be.
I'm upside down.
Okay, we are 3 lines from the bottom of Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. We're closing in on the 2nd chapter of Brachos, and we just have a couple more statements of the rabbis. Ki hava mifteri rabbanan mibei Rav Chisda, when the rabbis would leave of each other from the study hall of Rav Chisda, Amrilei, and some say it was from the study hall mibei Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni, Amar lehachi. They would say the following blessings to each other, good wishes. And it's a pasuk in Tehillim. The entire pasuk reads, as you see in the footnote, Alufeinu misubalim, our leaders are laden, they're carrying a big load. Ein peretz, there's no breach. Ve'ein yotzeitz, there's no going out. Ve'ein tzvacha b'rchavoseinu, and there's no outcry in our streets. How did they understand it? So when the words are Alufeinu misubalim, what does it mean? Our leaders are laden. So it's a machlokas what that means exactly. Rav and Shmuel, they both debate what the greeting meant. V'amri la Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. Some say it's a debate between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar what that statement meant. Chad Omer, one said, Alufeinu b'Torah, they are aluf. Aluf is a leader, so there are leaders in Torah umisubalim b'mitzvahs, and they're laden with mitzvahs. From the word lispol, where you bend your shoulder to carry a load. So they're loaded up with mitzvahs, specifically tzedakah and chesed. So the rabbis were saying, although they're very much involved in Torah study, they still burden themselves with good deeds, which is a perfect combination. That's how one rabbi understood it. One rabbi said, Alofeinu b'Torah mitzvahs. No, our leaders are leaders both in Torah and in mitzvahs. However, umisubalim b'yusurim, and they are laden with suffering, because sivalon means also suffering, so to speak. Moving on to the top of Yud Zayin Amud Beis. What about the rest of the pasuk? Ein peretz, there is no breach. What does that mean? Shelo tehei siyasenu k'siyaso shel David. We pray that our company, our group, should not be like the company of David. Our colleagues shouldn't be like David's group. Because in David's group, not everyone was so good. That Achitophel was a very, very big Talmud-Chacham, but he caused a great breach in the kingdom by not the least of which, where he joined the rebellion of Avshalom against his father. So we should only have people who are part of the chevra, who are keeping it nice and tight. The rest of the pasuk says, "Ve'ein yotzeitz," and there's no going out. Shelo tehei siyasenu k'siyaso shel Shaul, that our group should not have people like the company of Shaul. What was wrong with his company? Not Shaul, but sheyatz menu doeg adomi. There was someone like Doeg, the Adomi, was an advisor to King Shaul, and lots of terrible things came out of him and to him. The pasuk continues that they were quoting, "Ve'ein tzoicha," there's no outcry. Shotei siyasenu k'siyaso shel Elisha, that our group should not be like the group of Elisha, who also had a bad student. Sheyatzemenu Gehazi. Gehazi came out. He was not a very good student, and he suffered from tzoras. And finally, b'rchavoseinu, in our streets, shelo yehelanu beno talmud, we shouldn't have a child or a student, shemaktiach tafshilo barabim, who burns his dish in public, meaning to say, who does terrible things up to the point of chil Hashem in public. So that was the blessings that they gave each other. So now that we had, now the next little piece of Gemara, Vagada to Gemara, since we had a dispute We weren't sure if it was Rav and Shmuel or Rav Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. So we're going to have another pasuk that's mentioned with the same idea of the dispute between, we're not sure which two rabbis, explaining another Agadata Gemara. The pasuk says in Yeshaya, Shimu Elai Abire Leiv Harachoki Mitstaka. Shimu Elai, listen to me. Abire Leiv, the fierce-hearted ones, brave. Harachokim, who are far from righteousness. What does that mean? So again, Rav and Shmuel, one way of understanding is the machlokas Rav and Shmuel, what the pasuk means, what it's saying, V'amrila Rav Yochanan Rav Elazar. Another says Rav Yochanan Rav Elazar. Chad Amar, one of them says the pasuk means Kol olam kula nizunim b'tzedakah. The whole world is sustained through the righteousness of God, meaning to say, although they don't merit it, God provides it for them undeserved, as it were. But these people, and these fierce-hearted ones, they're sustained by the strength of their own merits. Meaning, the righteous people are far from the righteousness in the sense that they are the receivers of the charity, that they're the receivers of God's righteousness. Meaning they're such big tzaddikim, they deserve all the good that God gives them, and they're not getting any free handouts from God. So that's showing how, let's talk about wonderful, righteous people who don't need any extra kindness on God's part because they earned their keep, as it were, spiritually. V'chad Amar, and another one learns, Kol olam kula nizunim b'schusam. The entire world is sustained in their merit, in the merit of them, and that's what it means that they're, on the other hand, veheim afilu b'schus atzman ein nizunim, and they, even from their own, are not sustained by their own merits. In other words, they're tzaddikim, no question about it, and they don't even have what they need. The first shot is saying they're tzaddikim, they have what they need, but not out of God's kindness because they've earned it because they've behaved in a way that it's coming to them. While others maybe get it, they don't deserve it. They get righteousness from God, but not the tzaddikim. Here we're saying, no, they are tzaddikim, they are righteous, but they don't even benefit from their righteousness, and they have lots of difficulties in earning a living. Now, let's have an example of that second shot. Rav Yehuda Marav, like Rav Yehuda Marav says, Tomer Rav Yehuda Marav, v'chol yom v'yom, each and every day, Baskol Yotzeis Mehar Chorev Ve'omeres, a heavenly voice comes from Har Chorev, which is Mount Sinai, and makes the following proclamation that only certain well-attuned ears can hear. Kala olam kula nizuni b'shvil chanina b'ni. The entire world is sustained on account of the righteousness of Chanina b'ni, my son Chanina. That's Reb Chanina ben Dosa. Okay, it was during his time this voice came across. He does a lot of mitzvahs, he has a lot of schuyot. The world survives good. But Chanina b'ni, Chanina, my son himself, Dailo b'kav charuvim. He's satisfied with just a measure of carobs. Erev Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, from one Erev Shabbos to the next Erev Shabbos. In other words, he had the most meager food, and that's all he had. So you see, there's tzaddikim who really give the whole world to sustain because of them, but they don't get much from themselves. Upliga to Rabbi Yehuda, and these preceding opinions of the fierce-hearted ones are in conflict with Rabbi Yehuda, who now he says that the fierce-hearted ones are wicked people, because you could be fierce and firm in a wicked way. And he understands it. Rabbi Yehuda, Man Abirei Lev, who are the fierce-hearted ones? They are Gova'oi Tipshai. They're the foolish people from Govai, meaning descendants of the Givonim. And we'll see exactly who they are. They're people who tricked the Jewish people in the days of Yehoshua's time to convert them when they really were Canaanites who should not have been converted. And they're foolish. We'll see in a minute what that means. Amar Rav Yosef says, Teda, you should know that they are wicked. because the lo igayer girura minai, that no one ever truly converted from them. Again, the true Givonim, they were one of the seven, they were one of the Canaanite nations. They lived in a city called Givon, and they were afraid they were going to get conquered after they saw that the Jews destroyed the city of Ai and Yericho. So they disguised themselves as people who came from a faraway nation who did not live in Canaan, and they were able to get a covenant that Yeshua would not hurt them and would take care of them. So, and he didn't know he was talking to Canaanites. So then finally it found out that they were fooled. So therefore, Yeshua couldn't back out of the deal because of the Echil Hashem. They're going to say, oh, you made a treaty and now you went and destroyed them. You know, CNN existed then as well. So therefore, and, they already converted, etc. They did they fooled them. The Jews converted them, although they really had no intentions of being converted. So now Yeshua stuck. So he made them woodcutters and water carriers. And that's where we get the word Nesinim. It's another way of referring to the Givonim. They're called Nesinim because it means they were designated ones. They were designated with that title and did not allow Jews to marry them as long as the temple existed. That was the original Nesinim, the original Givonim. However, 3 centuries later, David HaMelech became aware of how terrible they really were. There's a story that happened later that he really saw how terrible they were. And we know the Jewish people are not so cruel. So he said they could never marry into the mainstream of Judaism, regardless of the state of the temple, whatever, permanently you can't do it. Anyway, the Maharsha writes later that these people, they became later apostates, they went back to idolatry, they never came back to Judaism, etc., etc. But anyway, the point of this all is these Givonim who were amongst the Jews, and they lived amongst the Jews in a way, and the Jews could not kill them, and they're there with us for hundreds of years, and not one ever really truly converted to Yiddishkeit. That's the point. They should have been impressed by Yiddishkeit. So you can see that they weren't interested in that at all. And that's what he's saying. These are people who are very strong-hearted, but yet none of them had any righteousness in them to convert to Yiddishkeit. So that's what the pasuk's referring to. Similarly, another idea of non-Jews being amongst Jews and not converting. Amar Rav Ashi says, B'nai Masa Mechasya, there's a place called the town of Mechasya. They also are Avire Lev Ninu, they're fierce-hearted people. Why? Because they saw the beauty of the Torah twice a year. Why? Because there was the 2 months of the year where there was like a Yarchei Kala, where everybody would get together to study Torah in the month of Elul and in the month of to hear lectures on Sukkot, and also in the month of Adar to hear lectures on Pesach. And to be like thousands and thousands of Jews would converge upon the city of Mechasya. All the discussions. But anyway, you see the grandeur of Torah. It's like, for example, let's say the Siyum HaShas in MetLife Stadium, where you imagine it's for a whole month. For a whole month, there's tens of thousands of Jews, and they produce a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. And you'd figure one goy, at least, would be impressed from that they would want to convert. Again, not that we proselytize, not that we're looking for converts, but the point is you'd figure that one of them would convert, but still, v'lo kama gayer, giyura minayu, not one of them ever converted. To show you that, we could have the most beautiful things to see, beautiful Jews, their connection to Hashem, and yet not one wanted to convert. Okay, that ends the Agadata Gemara. We now have about a third of a page to end the parak. We go back to a statement from the Mishnah that said, back to the halachic aspect, Chasam imroitza likrois. if a groom, remember we said a groom is exempt from saying the Shema because he can't concentrate. But then the Mishnah says, but if he wants to, he could read it. And then Reb Shimon Gamliel said, if you recall, and this he added over here, not everybody who wants to say it can say it. Okay? Not everyone can say, I have such a good name that I'm so meticulous in doing it. So what was the machlokas basically? Although the base halacha was that a chassan does not say the Shema because he can't concentrate, the first opinion, the rabbi says, if he wants to say it, he could say it. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, no, he shouldn't. Not everybody should because it smacks of arrogance. It smacks of arrogance because they look at me. I normally have so, even though I'm getting married, I'm going to have kavanah. So that's showing a bit of arrogance. Well, we're telling you're excused and you still want to say it. So what basically Gemara is going to do now is going to flesh out this argument as I've explained and then draw a contradiction between what Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and the rabbi say in another place, which would seem to flip the opinions. The Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says a person could do it, and the rabbis say it smacks of arrogance, and how we're going to resolve that contradiction between their opinions. That's what's coming up over here. So Gemara deduces from the statement of the Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said, L'meimra, do you mean to say Rabbi Shimon Gamliel chayesh l'lihura? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is concerned for arrogance, where he says not everybody can say the Shema when they're a groom because it makes it look like they could have so much kavanah. And you want to say the rabbis who allow it for Rabbanan lo chayesh l'lihura, and the rabbis are not concerned for arrogance, so they allow the chassan to say it. But we learned in another Mishnah, apparently, that these opinions of the rabbis, they flip their positions. Ditnan, for we learn in the Mishnah in Psachim. We're talking now about Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, where we have to be sitting on the floor and mourning, etc., etc. Well, what about the issue of working on Tisha B'Av? Is it permitted or not to work on Tisha B'Av? So the Tana Kama says, this is the law, according to them. Makom shenagu lasos melacha b'Tisha B'Av. If the locale where you are living was customary for people to work on Tisha B'Av. Now, very interesting. You should know when a person is sitting shiva lo aleinu, it's prohibited to work. You have to stay focused on the mourning that you're having, and work will distract you. That's for sure. Everyone agrees to that. Now, the question is, what about Tisha B'Av? So the pure halacha is that since the destruction is so many years ago, there's no prohibition about it because it's called, for example, an ancient mourning. It doesn't have the extreme restrictions. Although we should really feel devastated, even today the temple is destroyed, but let's be honest, it happened a long time ago. It doesn't have the same shock value upon us. So according to the letter of the law, you could work at Tisha B'Av. But now the Tana Kama says, but what is local custom? So he says, if the local custom is that they did work on Tisha B'Av, then oisim, then they're allowed to work. Makam shenagu shelo lasos, but if some communities adopted the stricter opinion not to work on Tisha B'Av, then ein osim, you don't work. Now, so that's the general rule for the general populace. However, v'chol makom talmidim chachamim b'deilim, but in all locales, regardless of what the custom is, Torah scholars must not study. Why? Because Torah scholars must not work. Why? Because they should feel the loss of the temple more so than others. So the Tana Kama says that you have to feel the loss. Okay, but other regular people, it depends on the custom. Reb Shimon Gamliel says, La'olam yaseh kol adam es atzmo ketalmid chacham. Shimon Gamliel argues and says, no, what do you mean only Talmidei Chachamim should not work? But every layman, even people who aren't Talmidei Chachamim, should abstain from work. So what does that mean they're abstaining from work? Well, we're saying the Talmud Chacham, everybody agrees the Talmud Chacham, no matter what the customer, shouldn't work. Why? Because he's a Talmud Chacham, he's a scholar, he's on a higher spiritual level, he should be more sensitive. That was the first opinion. Reb Shimon Gamliel says not only the scholars should abstain from work, but any regular person should. But wait a minute, they're not scholars. That seems to be a little arrogant, that if you're not a scholar, and you're still not working. So that becomes the contradiction between the two machlokasim, as the Gemara now elaborates. Kasha d'Rabbanan, we have a contradiction, the rabbis of the rabbis, where in the first case, by the groom, they said any groom could say the Shema, and they don't think it looks like arrogance. While on the other hand, by Tisha B'Av, they say only Talmidei Chachamim cannot work, but other people should not work, should work, because then it would look like arrogance. And Kasher Rav Shimon Gamliel is a contradiction of Rav Shimon Gamliel's words, who by the groom said that it shows arrogance, but by Tisha B'Av, it's not arrogance if a regular person doesn't do it. So how do we deal with this? So there's two answers are given. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, well, I guess what? We just have to flip the names in one of the Mishnayos, so that the positions are consistent. Muchlefes Hashita, the opinions of the rabbis and Rav Shimon Gamliel were erroneously reversed, and we made a mistake in the positioning of their names. So the Tana who arranged these two Mishnahs, he made a mistake and reversed the opinions in one of them. Now, which one is it? So the Tosas Yontat Pesachim says that it's in our Mishnah that the opinions were reversed. Reb Shimon Gamliel holds the groom is allowed to, and the rabbis say not. Okay, it's a debate exactly which position was reversed in what time. But that's a simple way out, just to say it was an error in the arrangement of the Mishnah. They didn't associate the correct name, so that's not the best way to answer a contradiction. That means you really couldn't come up with any better logical differentiation between the two scenarios. On the other hand, Rav Shesha Breder Rav Idi Rav Shesha, the son of Rav Idi, says, no, we can keep the names the way they are, and I can resolve the contradiction in both sides. Liolam lo tachalif. No, you don't have to change the opinions at all. And the Rabbanan lo kasha, and what we thought there was a contradiction of the rabbis, that by the Shema, they said anybody could say it. While on the other hand, by Tisha B'Av, not everybody cannot work. So it's like this. Kriya Shema, Kivin, the Kuli Alma Kokori. Kriya Shema, everybody says the Shema, right? The Shema is said by everybody else. No, the Iyuna Mikori. So he'll read also. In other words, at the wedding, everybody's saying Shema. And he's joining them, he's saying the Shema. He's not sticking out by doing anything different than anybody. So Lomich Sikiura doesn't look like he's arrogant, and that's why they allow him to say it, because he's just doing like everybody else. But Hacha here by Tisha B'Av, Kimin the Kuli Alma of the Malacha, everybody's working. And now there's people who are being different, who are not working. The Talmidei Chacham are not working. Now, you, Mr. Schlepper, Mr. Guy who works on the line in the Ford plant, you say, oh, I'm not working because I'm like, now that's different. Everybody else is working and only certain people are not, and you want to be like that? So since everyone's working, now you're not working, he's not working, then it's michsikira, then it looks like arrogance. It depends on the situation. In other words, by a chassan, according to the rabbi, since everybody says Shema, he says Shema too. No one's going to notice anything different. Even though he's a chassan, they're not going to notice anything different. He's davening mark with everybody else. Tisha B'Av, no, only scholars don't work. And now this worker is not working. So now it sticks out. And that's where the arrogance factor comes into play. On the other hand, to resolve the contradiction of Shimon Gamliel and Rav Shimon Gamliel Lokash is not a question. There, we're not looking at how it looks to other people. But here, Hasam de Kavana Talia Milsa. We're talking about Shema. Forget about what it looks like. We're talking about Kavana. We're talking about concentration. And the rabbi said the Chassan could read. But Shimon says, no, I'm sorry. Not everybody can read. But, it's a question of concentration. Banan Sadi, and we can testify to the fact a chassid cannot concentrate on his words. And therefore, every chassid who's so focused on being married and is not going to be able to concentrate, we do not allow him to say, because then it's clear arrogance. In other words, he presumes he's like everybody else. How can you like everybody else? Everybody else can have kavanah. He cannot have kavanah. But how about in the case of Tisha B'Av? In Tisha B'Av, it's not a question of concentration so much, but rather, haroa, the guy who sees the guy's not working. So when a guy's not working, let's say today, if you would be walking around in Ontario today, and let's say it was Tisha B'Av today. Let's say today was Tisha B'Av. All of a sudden, look at thousands of simple Jews who are not working today. Are we going to assume it's because they think they're so spiritual they're not working? Maybe it's just because there's no work, right? When it comes to saying Shema, the chassan, what are you saying Shema for? How can you concentrate on that? But when you see a regular guy not working on Tisha B'Av, it's not necessarily proof positive that he's saying, oh, I'm so spiritual, I'm so focused on the destruction of the temple, I can't work. I'm such a holy guy. Maybe very simple. Maybe there's no work. Not everybody had a job every day. It depended on if you had work. And Pukazi, go take a look right now. Kama batlani ikavashuka. How many people idle even on a regular working day? And therefore, it doesn't appear to be arrogant because there's many people all the time who don't work on a regular day. Right now, COVID-19, nobody's working. I mean, Lo Aleinu, this should not last till Tisha B'Av. But if it would last till Tisha B'Av, there'd be many regular Jews who really would normally go to work. They're not that spiritual. They're not working. And it's not because they think they're so spiritual. It's just because there's no work. And that's how that would be dealt with. And that ends Hadran Allah Hayakore. That's the end of Perek Hayakore. All right, we got a couple minutes. Let's just start the next Mishnah. We now go into a whole, remember, the first three Mishnayos are discussing the topic of Kriya Shema. So now we're going to discuss exemptions for Kriya Shema and other mitzvahs. And the main idea is when a person is involved in one mitzvah that has to be done, does it exempt him from other mitzvahs? We'll just look at the Mishnah for a simple reading, and then tomorrow we'll go in a little further. Okay. So let's talk about people who are exempt from the Shema. One whose dead relative lies before him and requires to be buried. An immediate relative of the 6 major relatives that you mourn for, and that person's in a state of aninus. That's after the death, before the funeral. So the death person is right before him. He has a lot to take care of to make sure that the dead person gets the proper honor. So such a person, from that time until the funeral's over, pater mikriya Shema. He's exempt from Shema, umin hatfilin from the Amida, umin hatfilin and from wearing tefillin. And this is the connection to the last Mishnah that said a groom is exempt from the Shema because it's hard to concentrate. So now we're talking about even more than that. An onain, besides it's hard to concentrate, he's very preoccupied with the mitzvah of burying the dead. And a matter of fact, not only Shema, Amida, and Tefillin, umekol mitzvahs hamura b'Torah, for all mitzvahs that are stated in the Torah, he's exempt from any of them. Now, although he's, therefore, for the clearest example is, of a mistake people make is, they figure they can make brachas on food when they're in onain. And the halacha is they can't. You make no brachas, you do nothing. You're not obliged to any mitzvahs. However, let's not forget, you're not allowed to transgress any averos either. It's not you say, oh, I'm an onain, so I can speak lashon hara now. Oh, I'm an onain, I can eat treif. No, you can't transgress any averos, but there's an obligation to actively partake in doing mitzvos. There is no obligation. You're not allowed to. You're exempt from that. So that is the halacha. That is the halacha that many people aren't aware of. A lot of times, person's an onain, and they're, just had a loss. They figure, I'm going to be more religious. and I'm going to make brachas, and I'm going to mamish daven. No, until the funeral is over, you cannot. Okay, we'll stop at this point, and we'll continue the rest of the Mishnah and on to the next Gemara as we start the third chapter. Have a great day, guys.
Thank
you. Have a
you.
good day.
Hi, Alexander.
Give you a bracha. Oh, it's my birthday.
Whose
Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
The Hebrew birthday. I'm giving you all a bracha, success with your learning. And the rabbi.
So, which